would you describe financial wellness? What is it?
What is it? So I always say when you think about your overall well-being, just in general, it's how you feel, how good you feel at the moment. So your financial wellness is quite literally how you feel about money. Like how do you feel about how much you're saving, how you're spending, your financial situation? Like it's connected to the feeling. And like I like to break it down into 3 categories. The 3 C's is how I remember it.
Love it.
So financial confidence, financial control, and financial capacity. So confidence is how confident you feel in making educated decisions about your money in the now and in the future. Financial control is the way that you manage your money. So the saving, the spending, like the actual practical stuff. And then capacity is like your ability to absorb shock. So having an emergency fund, planning for the future, like things that might go wrong, losing your job or having a lack of income, that kind of thing. So financial wellness encapsulates kind of all 3 of those. It's not just how much money you have in your bank account or how much you earn. It's more about how you feel about what you have.
I saw something you said on one of your TikToks, which really resonated with me, which was how you manage £10 is how you're going to manage £10,000. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I love that. I love that quote. So usually what happens when I speak with clients, when I speak with people in my community, whatever it is, the kind of go-to is I need more money. I need to be earning more. I need to have more. Sometimes, yes, that is like the solution, you need more. But on a whole, if you don't have your relationship and the way that you manage with money, the way that you manage money, like good and strong, and you've got a foundation of managing it on a smaller amount, if you start making more and earning more, you're not going to feel the difference of earning more. So it's like your lifestyle will inflate to the amount that you have. So I'll just say, you will get a pay rise. You'll be like, oh my God, thank God I've got more money. But then you will get a more expensive phone. You'll go to eat. You'll start shopping in Waitrose instead of Lidl. You will, you'll get moved somewhere that's a bit nicer with higher rent. And then suddenly you have all the same things, food, a house, a phone, but yet you don't feel the difference of it. So learning how to manage a smaller amount is going to help you by the time you do make more, because then you'll be able to invest and save the difference and inflate your lifestyle a little bit.
Yeah, treat yourself.
Treat yourself.
But don't go overboard. Yeah. I think we've all been there. When you get a promotion, you're like, what? Everything I now earn that's over what I used to, I'll just save.
Yeah.
And that never happens.
Yeah. And we just assume like your money habits and behaviours change by having more money. And it's like, that's not the case. You don't just naturally get more and then go, oh, I'm going to act completely differently. You're going to act the exact same, but you're just going to have more of it to play around with.
Yeah, one thing I love about that quote as well is just the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
I think finance in general just has this like overly complex feel to it. Yeah. It's like it's so inaccessible, and like £10,000 is like so much money. How would I even use it? What would I do with it? But when you just boil it down to 10 quid, it just suddenly feels like more accessible and like anybody could do it.
Yeah. And I think as well, like we forget that all of the little habits and like things that we do with our money on a daily basis are so important versus just those big decisions we make, buying a house, spending a big chunk of money, making a big investment. Like, yes, those milestones are important, but the way that you spend it and manage it on a daily basis, the smaller amounts actually have a bigger impact on your overall financial well-being. And I think that's part of what gets forgotten, because it's a little bit like, oh, that little thing's not going to matter, or oh, what's the point in doing that? But they kind of it gets pushed out, and then they're the things that get forgotten about.
Yeah.
But they're actually things that you've got to hone in on first.
Yeah. So talking about those habits, what does financial wellness look like to you on sort of a day-to-day basis?
So I think that first of all, one of the biggest things is how you feel. So your money mindset, understanding what your actual relationship with money is, the emotional side. And then also financial organization. So like the way that you budget or the way that you plan your spending, the financial systems that you have in place, like making sure that they are all in alignment with what your financial goals and your financial values are. So I think on a day-to-day basis. So for me, for example, I look in my bank account every day just to make sure, that there's no...
brave. You're so brave.
Only the bravest. Just to make sure that there's, no scaries or something that I haven't randomly... I can't get to the end of the month and go, what was that? Like, I know it was me if I'm looking at it every day.
Yeah.
So looking in my bank account, checking in with my budget, making sure that I'm spending in alignment with it. So all of those little things that come down to the way that I manage it is going to help my overall, like, is going to play into my financial well-being because I'm in touch with my money. I'm in control. I'm in, like, I've got a connection with it. I think a lot of the time what happens, especially nowadays, because of the lack of financial education, the fact that we don't really talk about money much, people have a real disconnect to their money.
100%.
And I think it has a massive impact on, like, how you then manage. It's the same, like, I always talk about money as though it was a romantic partner. Like, if you, we all know what a toxic relationship looks like, you know, them going out, you not know when they're going to come back. It makes you all desperate. It makes you all scrappy. Like, it's not cute. You don't want that with your money. You want to have a real connection to it. You want there to be trust there, but you then have to put time and energy into it for it to, for you to have that connection. People forget that, like, money management is fluid. I think there are some real negative connotations attached to budgeting because people assume it means you have to be frugal or tight or restrictive, but actually budgeting itself helps you to spend as well as save and invest, but it's going to be fluid. At the start of the month, you might create a plan, what you think is going to happen, and then it doesn't necessarily go to plan because 2 weeks in, you've had a crazy Friday night, and then before you know it, it's Sunday, and you're like, whoopsie. But what usually happens is that makes people go, oh, stuff it, I'll budget next month, as opposed to going, okay, I had 2 days of craziness. I just need to rein it in this week. And then by the end of the week, I'm still on budget. Yeah. And, like, it is so, I love comparing money to, like, health. There's so much crossover. And it's a little bit like if you were to be on a diet and you cut out all carbs and all sweet stuff, which might seem like a good idea, but you go completely restrictive, you are going to get a couple of weeks down the line and you are going to binge. You're going to go crazy because your body's like, I need carbs. Like, everyone needs potatoes. Do you know what I mean? So,
I really do.
I really
100%.
do.
I have a specific budget for potatoes.
Yes, so do I. So instead, it's the 80-20, isn't it? Of, like, 80% of the time I'm going to manage it well, with the ability to, like, 20% play around or treat myself or know that it might change. It's fluid, it's flexible. And I think when you can build that mindset, it kind of makes you a bit more financially resilient to being able to, oh, that's okay that happened. I'm not going to shame myself. I'm just going to get back on track and we carry on.
So we often hear this term financial freedom, and I think lots of different people have different definitions of it. So I'm really curious to find out what your definition of financial freedom is.
So for me, financial freedom is about having the choice and having options and having the choice over when I work. I think I know that I would have reached a point of financial freedom when I'm no longer having to work. Like, it's a choice. Because even now, I run my own business. I love it. But I still have to work. Like, I'm just making that choice instead of doing a 9 to 5. Like, I had a 9 to 5 for 10 years. And, you know, it was amazing. It did what it needed to do. Like, I got really good habits from that. I then chose to set up my business, which in itself gives you flexibility of time and location when you do work remotely. But I still have to do it. Right. So I think for me, financial freedom is having no ties time-wise to a job or to money, because my investments are overflowing and I'm living off of that. Yeah. That's my plan.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like the dream.
The dream. Yeah. So I think, and I'm very aware that, like, financial freedom, is going to mean something different to everybody. But I think in the general context, that is an ideal scenario for everyone, getting to pick when they work. Like, we live in a world where we need money. Like, unless you're going to go off of grid, which some people do. Yeah. Unless you're literally going to take yourself out of society, we do need money. The amount of money you need to live is going to be different from the next person. So understanding, like, how much it costs to be you is so important. But then getting your finances, like, to a place where you can go, I don't need to be working anymore because I've got income streams left, right and centre.
Yeah. I love the idea of choices. I think even just hearing that just just immediately makes me feel kind of more relaxed. Yeah. Because at times I've felt like financial freedom means I have to be a billionaire. Yeah. You know, or it's like these really, like, lofty goals. Yeah. And actually, as you say, it's about just learning what you need to be happy and working towards that. And that's going to look different for everybody.
Yeah. And I think, like, it's so true with the being like, oh, financial freedom means I have to literally have, like, £1 billion. Yeah. Not at all. Yeah. It's more accessible than people realise. And I put it in quote marks because I'm aware that, you know, people have different privileges and everyone's in different situation.
Absolutely.
But also, we get to set our own lifestyle goals. So the amount of money that one person can live off of happily is going to be so different from the next person. If you can have lower expectations for yourself and be like happy with less and not as much as, you know, whoever else, then you're going to essentially reach financial freedom sooner. But also, even though it is a goal I think we should work towards, it's not the be all and end all. It might take you 40 years to reach financial freedom, and that's okay, because if you're having a good time along the way, it's all right.
What would you say to someone who is not super keen on this financial wellness terminology? Because I know sort of self-care can get a bit of like a bad rep because it can feel like a chore. So if someone was like, ugh, financial wellness, please, what would you say to them?
I'd be like, okay, first up, don't roll your eyes.
Grow up.
Grow up. This is the world we live in. I think, first of all, I would ask, what is it that you're going to? Like, if it's the world of wellness, I get it, because the industry it's getting so much more, it's getting bigger, it's getting more well known, and even though there are so many pros to it, as we know, there are some cons to it, because you have, I think the way that it's portrayed is very like, some people think it's really woo-woo and is like all made up. Some people think it's for a certain type of person. And the frustrating thing is like, everybody ever, regardless of age, gender, race, anything, should be, you know, wanting to improve their own wellness and should be allowed access to that. So I find it frustrating when the industry kind of like excludes certain people. So I completely get that. But I think when it comes to financial wellness, is like just acknowledging that the way that money and your connection to it is going to make you feel a certain way. If right now you feel good about money, great. You probably, you know, you got good financial wellness. If right now you feel shit about money, you probably are somebody who does need to look into that term and actually start doing something about it. So I think it depends where someone is at in their kind of financial journey.
And why do you think people find money stuff so scary?
I think because, first of all, we weren't taught about money in school.
Oh,
right?
No. Literally, I have this conversation almost daily. It's insane.
I've done a couple of podcasts and workshops and stuff to do with the difference between financial education, financial advising, and financial coaching. Because obviously I'm a financial coach, and my aim is to like mentor and guide people and empower them to make their own educated financial decisions. I'm not making decisions for anyone. And I mix in a lot of financial education, because I will teach people how to budget. I will teach people about saving and investing, but I'm not saying, Louise, you should put, you know, X amount in this stock. I don't do that, which is really what financial advice is taking that personal situation. I think as well, like, there are some really like basic foundational habits and things that you can learn that will literally change the way that you view and handle money. That are, and I say basic not in like a derogatory way, but in the way of like simple, like straightforward. If everybody just had this basic level of knowledge, some people are going to just go, cool, that's enough for me. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to crack on. Some people will be like, brilliant. Now I've got this foundation. I want to take it to the next level. Everyone's interest is going to be different, but it's like, we don't even get that initial opportunity to do that. Like, I literally taught myself about money because I had that interest. And like, I didn't get anything from my parents, but that's no shade to them. They didn't get taught about it. And like, that's a long lineage of, you know, not being taught about money. So I think people, especially like the younger generation, are like trying to break those kind of generational patterns of not talking about money, managing their money poorly and that kind of stuff, which I think is really cool.
How do you think we can start having more open discussions? So if someone's thinking, you know, I want to start talking to my friends about money, and how would you suggest people get started with that?
Oh my God, I love this question, because one thing I've really noticed is when I started my blog, I was talking about money, obviously very openly, and I lived with two of my best friends at the time, and it really obviously sparked a conversation, because they were like, you know, and I told them I was going to do it, they knew, but I posted a blog called How I Saved £15,000 in 3 years, and a few years prior to that, had been traveling with them, and they never really knew how much I'd saved or how much I had. It was always kind of just like, we didn't really speak about it. It was just like, Laura's just like kind of traveling and she doesn't have to work. She just got this money.
Just suitcases of cash.
And so it kind of opened up this conversation, and it's changed our friendship massively in a really positive way, because we're able to really openly talk about pay rises. Like, we literally would sit in the lounge with each other. One would have their laptop out and would be like, oh, you should say you know, get yourself a pay rise. Or what do you think she should? And we like do it together.
Nice.
So we've all got each other pay rises and promotions.
Amazing.
And like teamwork, #teamwork.
Yes, girl power.
Girl power. And that only comes from having those open conversations. And it also works the other way when I'm able to, we're all really lucky. We've all been able to be really honest with each other when it's like, oh my God, I really want to go on holiday this year. Who wants to go? And I'm able to go, oh yeah, I do. But like, I kind of am on a budget this year. So do you reckon we could do something really cheap? Oh yeah, of course. As opposed to like, oh God, I don't want to tell them I can't really afford it. Like maybe I'll just stretch, and which happens a lot. And that even, not even about holidays, that comes down to like popping out for dinner. Like I'm literally, all of my friends are able to be like, oh gals, I'm trying to save money at the moment. Do you mind just popping over to mine and I'll cook us some dinner? You know, all of those things. So I think if you are someone who wants to start having more money conversations, first of all is like, be the one to be vulnerable. If you can be the one to a friend, a partner, whoever, where you can open up and say, this is what I'm experiencing, or this is what I've going through or have been through, it helps other people like let their guard down. And you might not get them on the first go. You know, they might just be like, oh, cool. You know, and hear you out.
Like, oh, sorry for you.
Sorry about that. I have no advice. But like, I think it's one of those things, if you go in asking someone too many questions, they're going to get, they might get their back up and be like, whoa, I just want to know all of this information about me. You know, I'm not ready to talk about that. So if you can be the one to go in and be like, oh, I really want to have a chat about money. And you can do it, you know, one of two ways. You can literally be like, hey, friend, I would like to chat about money. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Or you do it more slyly and you go, oh, you know, you make some little comments about, oh, God, I'm really struggling to budget at the moment. Do you have a budget? You know, and it can open it up like that. But the power of having conversations is insane. And if you feel like you don't have anybody to talk to, there are so many online communities. Like some of my like audience, we have great chats in the DMs, in the comments. Open that convo right up, you know?
What's kind of been the most unexpected thing you've discovered since really focusing on like financial wellness for yourself?
I think, so when I trained as a financial coach, when you go through your own journey of coaching yourself, as in like in a group, because you're learning how to do it for other people, and you learn about like the connection to the emotional side of money and your mindset. So I think when it came to like improving my own financial well-being and like the connection to that, I think two things. First of all is the recognition that personal finance doesn't have a linear trajectory. Like I'm not just going to make more, save more and invest more every single year on year. Like for me to have quit my full-time job and run a business, my net worth has dropped because I've had to live off of my savings for a little bit. I've had to, you know, invest money into the business. And I think that naturally that kind of thing can feel really scary because you're like, my money is going down, but actually I'm really able to go, that's okay, because that's just the period I'm in right now. I can see the kind of future of what it is that I'm working towards. And then also the acknowledgement of how my own money beliefs were kind of holding me back in business, and like setting up my own business, making my own money. Like I was really able to work through, I guess, the beliefs that were stopping me from going for it. And because that money mindset is such a huge part of your financial wellness, connecting to that and becoming aware of it can be life-changing.
Love that. That really resonates with me, of like it not being a linear journey, because I think, we expect everything in life just to be bigger, better, onwards and onwards. And actually it's like your priorities change. If you have a baby, you buy a flat, or like you just want to go on a big mega holiday that year, like, you're going to end up, you know, your finances are going to look different.
Yeah. And like so I saved 15 grand, but between the ages of 19 to 22, and I was a massive saver. And then I went traveling and spent it all. And what I learned from that was like, oh, money gives you these options. It gives you this freedom. It gives you these choices. And it is also there to be spent, be it on an experience, be it on a property, be it on whatever that is. Like, I think sometimes me especially, like I got too attached to holding on to money.
Yes.
Because I was like, oh my God, that's my security and that's my stability.
Nice to see it.
It's nice to see those digits. Do you know what I mean? And like you 100%. Get attached to it.
Yeah.
But actually I was able to learn firsthand what spending it could also do. So like I think that I'm very much a believer in that holistic approach of like, all of the things are important. I'm not like, oh, you should just save and invest only ever and don't spend any money, because that sucks.
Yeah, that's not life.
That's not life.
So tell me about those limiting beliefs. What kind of things do you think were holding you back?
So my dad was a self-employed plumber. You'd think he'd have loads of money. but he didn't. he used to just give away everything for free or really cheap. Aww. He was an awful businessman.
Great guy, though.
Great guy. And yeah, so I experienced from a young age, you know, a father figure, being out of the house a lot, working loads, and yet still as a family we were struggling. So I created this belief that making money is hard and that you have to work really hard to even just survive. So by the time I got a full-time job working away, and I was a saleswoman, so I got commission, so I could work extra hours, so I would work really, really hard, like really close to burnout, like all the time.
Wow.
And then when I realized I could kind of turn my business into a business, I just couldn't see how I could make money out of it. Like, it was other people being like, babes, you could turn this into a business. And I'm like, yeah, but how? I don't get who's going to pay me money for this. I don't understand, and I couldn't I was like, I see other people doing it, but I don't know why people would do that for me. And it was this belief that like I had an inability to make my own money because I'd been receiving a paycheck from an employer for a 9 to 5 for like 10 years. Like at the time it was like 8 years.
Yeah.
So it was this belief around making money and like earning your own money and like money having limits. So I had to really kind of work through like, that was a borrowed belief from my dad. Like, that's his story. That's not mine. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, so that's why I've not gone self-employed yet. Like, that kind of understanding around that. And then, really work a lot on that. I mean, it's still a work in progress.
Of course, we all are.
But we have to remember, like, money is an amplifier. So it will just create more of who you already are.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer, and this is something that I have like mixed into my own kind of rituals and routines, is like the belief that because I am a good person, I am a good, kind person, if I have more money, I can just do more good, kind things. I can give more, I can buy more gifts for my friends and family. I can give to more charities. I can, stop spending at big corporates, and I can put money into small independently owned businesses. Like, having more money isn't a bad thing if you're a good person.
Oh, that's a great way to think about it. And can verify you are a really nice person.
Thank you.
So it's true.